You may call yourself free because no man is standing over you with a chain, yet you may still be obeying masters you have never learned to see. A fear can command you. A memory can command you. A wound can command you. An appetite can command you. The need to be approved can command you. And the most dangerous form of control is the one you mistake for your own choice. Look closely at your life. How many of your decisions are truly yours? How many are reactions? How many were made because you were afraid of being rejected? How many because you wanted to prove someone wrong? How many because you could not bear to feel left behind? How many because comfort spoke more loudly than purpose? Do not answer quickly. A man who has never examined what moves him cannot honestly claim that he governs himself. He may be moving. He may be choosing. He may be deciding. But something unseen may be choosing through him. See it. Freedom begins with sight. The thing that controls you does not always announce itself as an enemy. It often appears as a familiar feeling, a reasonable excuse, a personal preference, or a belief you have repeated so long that you no longer remember when it began. You say, "That is simply how I am." Be careful. That sentence has kept many men imprisoned. Perhaps it is not who you are. Perhaps it is only what has been controlling you. There is a difference. A man may believe he dislikes risk when what truly controls him is the memory of one former failure. He may believe he values peace when what truly controls him is fear of conflict. He may believe he is humble when what truly controls him is fear of being seen and judged. He may believe he is patient when what truly controls him is indecision. Words can hide chains. Name the chain correctly. This requires a kind of courage greater than the courage required to face an enemy outside yourself. An outside enemy is easier to hate. An inner controller may have protected you once. It may have helped you survive embarrassment, rejection, uncertainty, or pain. That is why you defend it. But what protects a child may imprison a man. What once kept you safe may now keep you small. Examine the old protections. Perhaps silence once protected you from criticism. Now it prevents you from speaking when truth is required. Perhaps caution once protected you from loss. Now it prevents you from opportunity. Perhaps pleasing others once protected you from rejection. Now it has made you a servant to every opinion. The question is not whether the pattern once helped. The question is whether it still deserves authority. Authority must be examined. Every thought, habit, fear, desire, and influence that repeatedly directs your conduct should be asked one question: where are you taking me? Do not ask only how it feels now. Ask where obedience leads. A habit may offer relief and create weakness. A fear may offer safety and create regret. Approval may offer belonging and create self-betrayal. Comfort may offer ease and create decay. Think beyond the immediate reward. This is where self-government begins. The lower mind asks, what do I feel like doing? The governed mind asks, what is making me feel this way, and should it be obeyed? That second question creates distance between impulse and action. Distance creates choice. Choice creates freedom. Without that distance, you are merely reacting. A man who reacts to every internal command is no more free than a horse responding to every pull on the reins. Who holds your reins? Answer honestly. Perhaps fear does. You may not call it fear. You may call it careful planning. But if you constantly prepare and rarely move, fear may be governing the plan. Perhaps pride does. You may call it self-respect. But if you cannot admit error, cannot ask for help, cannot tolerate another man receiving more attention, pride may be sitting in the chair. Perhaps resentment does. You may call it memory. But if one old injury still changes how you treat new people, the past is still making present decisions. Do not be offended by this examination. Be liberated by it. What you can see clearly loses some of its power. The unseen controls through confusion. The seen can be judged. This is why self-knowledge is not a luxury. It is a condition of freedom. You must know the forces operating within you. Not to become obsessed with yourself, to stop being ruled unconsciously. A man can spend years changing jobs, places, relationships, and plans, while carrying the same invisible master from one condition into the next. Then he wonders why the same pattern repeats. The scenery changed. The controller did not. If you keep meeting the same problem in different forms, look inward. Do not assume life is repeating itself by accident. Perhaps you are repeating yourself. This can be painful to admit. Admit it anyway. Painful truth is cheaper than comfortable repetition. Suppose every opportunity eventually becomes something you abandon. Do not merely say the opportunities were wrong. Ask what happens inside you after the beginning. Do you become bored? Afraid? Impatient? Do you begin comparing yourself? Do you lose interest when praise disappears? There is a mechanism. Find it. Suppose every relationship eventually becomes conflict. Do not merely conclude that people always disappoint you. Ask what pattern you carry into closeness. Do you become controlling? Do you expect betrayal? Do you punish people for what someone else did? There is a mechanism. Find it. Patterns are evidence. Study them. A single event may be chance. A repeated result often has a repeated cause. Your task is to find the cause before the next result appears. This is intelligent living. The man who refuses to study patterns becomes a victim of repetition. He calls it bad fortune. He calls it betrayal. He calls it destiny. Sometimes it is simply an unexamined habit, returning with another face. Do not let repetition become fate. Interrupt it. The first step is observation without excuse. Watch yourself in moments of pressure. Pressure reveals control. When criticized, what takes over? When delayed, what takes over? When praised, what takes over? When money becomes tight, what takes over? When success begins, what takes over? The answer tells you who has authority. A man may appear disciplined until disappointment comes. Then self-pity takes command. Another may appear humble until praise comes. Then vanity takes command. The controller often hides until conditions awaken it. Study the awakening. What awakens the lower response? This is your trigger. Triggers are not excuses. They are information. If you know what awakens the pattern, you can prepare before the pattern becomes strong. This is strategy. The unprepared man meets every temptation as though it were the first. The prepared man recognizes the old visitor at the door. He says, I know what follows if I let you in. This recognition creates power. You do not need to become afraid of every trigger. You need to know your response. If criticism awakens anger, decide beforehand that you will pause before speaking. If uncertainty awakens delay, decide beforehand what first action will be taken. If praise awakens carelessness, create standards that do not change with applause. Pre-decide. A decision made under calm can protect a man under pressure. This is one of the foundations of freedom. Do not rely upon the strength you hope to feel in the moment. Build a law before the moment arrives. A man who has settled his principles does not need to reinvent character during temptation. He already knows, I do not lie for advantage. I do not delay this duty. I do not speak while anger controls me. These rules remove unnecessary negotiation. Negotiation gives weakness room to bargain. Some things should no longer be debated. Settle them. You may think rules reduce freedom. The right rules increase it. A man without self-imposed boundaries becomes a servant to every impulse. The man who says yes to every desire is not free. He is controlled by desire. The man who cannot refuse appetite is not free. He is governed by appetite. The man who cannot endure discomfort is not free. Comfort controls him. Freedom is not doing whatever you feel. Freedom is the ability to refuse what would otherwise command you. Build that ability. Begin with one controller. Do not attack your entire inner world in one day. Choose the force that costs you most. Fear, approval, anger, delay, comfort. Name it. Then observe its method. When does it speak? What language does it use? What reward does it promise? What price does it hide? Write these things down if necessary. Make the invisible visible. A man can fight more intelligently when he knows what he is fighting. The controller may say, avoid this difficult conversation and you will have peace. What price is hidden? Perhaps months of resentment. Perhaps continued disrespect. Perhaps self-betrayal. Now the bargain looks different. The controller may say, delay this work and you will feel relief. What price is hidden? Lost momentum. Weakening trust in yourself. Another unfinished promise. See the entire bargain? Weakness sells immediate relief and hides future cost. Wisdom reveals the cost. This is why a longer view creates greater freedom. The man trapped in the moment is easily controlled. The man who sees consequence can refuse. Lengthen your vision. Ask where repeated obedience leads. If I keep obeying this fear for 5 years, where will I stand? If I keep obeying this anger, what relationships will remain? If I keep obeying this need for approval, whose life will I be living? These questions are severe. Use them. You need severe questions when comfortable lives have lasted too long. Do not confuse severity with cruelty. Truth can be severe and still be merciful. The doctor who identifies the disease is not insulting the patient. He is giving him a chance. Give yourself that chance. Identify the disease of control, then understand what feeds it. Every controller has fuel. Fear feeds upon imagination without examination. Resentment feeds upon repeated memory. Approval-seeking feeds upon lack of inner standards. Comfort feeds upon immediate surrender. Stop feeding the controller. If fear feeds upon imagined catastrophe, bring facts. If resentment feeds upon repetition, stop rehearsing the injury. If approval feeds upon dependence, begin making one right decision without asking for permission. Starve what controls you. Then feed the opposite. Courage, forgiveness, self-respect, discipline. This is how authority changes hands. You cannot simply remove a controlling force and leave emptiness. The mind will return to what is familiar. Replace the old authority with a higher one. Let purpose replace approval. Let principle replace impulse. Let truth replace fear. Let discipline replace comfort. The higher force must be practiced until it becomes stronger than the old one. At first, this feels unnatural. Of course it does. You have obeyed one master for years. and are now learning another government. Do not mistake unfamiliarity for falseness. Freedom will feel strange to the man accustomed to change. Stay with it. The first time you refuse an old command, you may feel anxious. The second time, less. The 10th time, something changes. The old master begins losing confidence. The new standard begins gaining authority. Repetition transfers power. Use repetition deliberately. This is why one courageous decision is good, but a courageous pattern is freedom. One act of discipline is good, but a disciplined identity is freedom. One honest refusal is good, but a life no longer governed by approval is freedom. Build patterns. Do not chase moments. Freedom is a structure, and structures require foundations. The foundation is self-awareness. The walls are principle. The doors are boundaries. The roof is self-command. Build carefully. Do not announce that you are free too early. Many men break one habit and think the war is over. Then the same controller returns in another form. Approval seeking may become pride. Fear may become excessive control. Resentment may become coldness. Watch the transformation. The force that once controlled you may change clothing. Remain observant. A man serious about freedom does not only ask, "Have I stopped the old behavior?" He asks, "Has the underlying need been healed?" This is deeper work. If you stop seeking approval publicly but still live in constant fear of judgment, the controller remains. If you stop expressing anger but still rehearse hatred inwardly, the controller remains. Do not settle for surface change. Find the root. The root is often a belief. I am not safe unless everyone approves. I am weak if I admit error. I will be hurt again if I trust. Examine the belief. Is it true? Always? Without exception? Weak beliefs survive by avoiding examination. Challenge them. You do not need everyone's approval to remain worthy. You do not become weak by admitting truth. You do not become safe by distrusting the whole world. Replace false beliefs with stronger truths. Then act according to the stronger truth. Belief without action remains theory. Test it. Make one decision without approval. Admit one error without self-destruction. Trust wisely where trust has been earned. Experience teaches the mind that another way is possible. This is how internal freedom grows. And as you begin seeing what controls you, naming it, tracing its pattern, and withdrawing obedience from it, you will discover a difficult truth. Many of your controllers did not enter your life by force. You invited them through repeated agreement. You gave fear another decision. You gave comfort another hour. You gave resentment another night. Those agreements built the chain. Now the agreements must be broken one by one, because no man becomes free merely by recognizing his master. He becomes free when he stops obeying him. Recognition can happen in a moment. A man may suddenly see what has been controlling him and feel as though the battle is already won. But seeing the chain is not the same as breaking it. The chain was formed through repetition, and repetition must now work in the opposite direction. You must become willing to disappoint the old master. Fear will ask for another retreat. Refuse it. Comfort will ask for another excuse. Refuse it. Approval will ask you to betray your judgment. Refuse it. Resentment will ask for another private rehearsal of the injury. Refuse it. This is how authority changes. Not through one magnificent declaration, through repeated non-cooperation. The force that controls you survives because it expects obedience. It has studied you long enough to know which argument usually works. It knows when you are tired. It knows when you are lonely. It knows how to turn one memory into a whole night of thought. Do not underestimate what has been practiced for years, but do not worship it either. A habit may be strong and still be temporary. A fear may be deep and still be trainable. A pattern may be old and still be broken. The first requirement is that you stop treating the command as final. When fear says, "Do not move," ask whether movement is still right. When pride says, "Defend yourself," ask whether silence is stronger. When comfort says, "You have done enough," ask whether the duty is complete. This pause between command and obedience is where freedom grows. A free man is not a man without impulses. He is a man who can examine them. He is not a man without fear. He is a man whose fear no longer owns the final decision. He is not a man without appetite. He is a man who can say no. Do not demand a life without inner resistance. Demand a stronger government. This is a more realistic form of mastery. The old controller may continue knocking long after you stop opening the door. Let it knock. You are not required to answer. This may feel strange at first because you have confused the presence of a thought with the need to obey it. They are not the same. A thought can exist without becoming an action. A desire can exist without becoming a decision. A fear can exist without becoming your future. Separate presence from authority. This distinction changes everything. You may feel the old anger rise. That does not mean you must speak. You may feel the need for approval. That does not mean you must surrender your standard. You may feel afraid. That does not mean the road is wrong. The moment you understand this, you begin recovering choice. Choice is one of the greatest forms of power, but choice must be exercised. A man who says, "I could choose differently," but never does, remains controlled. Use the power. Begin with small acts of refusal. If approval has ruled you, make one sound decision without explaining it to everyone. If comfort has ruled you, complete one difficult duty before allowing yourself ease. If fear has ruled you, take one intelligent step before certainty feels complete. Small acts matter because each one teaches the mind that the old controller is no longer absolute. The mind learns through evidence. Give it evidence. Do not merely repeat, "I am free." Show yourself. The first evidence may be weak. That is fine. A door that has been closed for years may be difficult to open at first. Open it anyway. The muscles of self-command grow through use. This is why a man must stop waiting to feel powerful before behaving powerfully. Power is often created by behavior. You act against the old command. You survive. The mind learns. Next time, the controller seems slightly less convincing. Repeat. This is how invisible chains weaken. But understand something else. When you stop obeying one controller, you may suddenly feel empty. If approval has directed you for years, who are you when no one is praising? If fear has directed you, what do you do when you no longer retreat? If resentment has given you energy, what moves you when the anger begins to fade? This emptiness is dangerous if you are unprepared. Do not rush back to the old master merely because freedom feels quiet. Fill the space with principle. You need a higher authority. Purpose, truth, faith, character. Without a higher authority, freedom becomes confusion. A man cannot simply stop living for approval. He must begin living by a standard he respects. He cannot simply stop obeying fear. He must begin serving a purpose worth the risk. He cannot simply stop obeying resentment. He must direct the released energy toward construction. Freedom must have direction. Otherwise, the old chain may look attractive again. This is one reason many men return to familiar weakness after making progress. The weakness gave structure to their lives. Fear told them what not to do. Approval told them who to please. Anger told them who to oppose. When those controllers weaken, the man must decide who he is without them. Decide. Do not let the absence of old control create a vacuum. Choose what will govern you now. Perhaps your new authority is a definite purpose. Good. Then let the purpose make decisions. Ask, does this move me toward the life I intend to build? This question is stronger than, will everyone approve? Perhaps your authority is truth. Then ask, what is actually true here, not merely what fear imagines? Perhaps your authority is character. Then ask, what action allows me to respect myself tomorrow? These questions create a higher government. Use them often. The old controller survives partly because it speaks automatically. Your new government must become automatic too. At first you must remember to ask the question. Later, the question begins arising naturally. This is progress. A new mental habit is being formed. Do not become impatient. The chain was not built in a day. Freedom may also require time, but do not use time as an excuse for passivity. Work daily. There is another controller many men never recognize: habitual guilt. A man makes one mistake and then feels he must continue punishing himself long after correction is possible. He says, I should have known better. Perhaps. Now what? Guilt that leads to correction has value. Guilt that becomes identity is another chain. Do not become a servant to the need to punish yourself. This may sound like humility. Often it is pride in reverse. You become so occupied with your own failure that you fail to move forward. Correct what can be corrected. Apologize where needed. Restore what can be restored. Then release the sentence. A man must not spend 10 years paying emotionally for one mistake after the practical debt has been settled. That is not wisdom. It is bondage. Learn the difference between responsibility and self-condemnation. Responsibility says, I did wrong and I will repair. Self-condemnation says, I am wrong and therefore I must remain beneath the mistake. Reject the second. A free man can admit failure without becoming the failure. This is important. The controller often uses shame because shame creates identity. I made a weak decision becomes I am weak. I behave foolishly becomes I am a fool. Do not make permanent identity from temporary conduct. Correct conduct. Then create new evidence. The next strong act matters. So does the one after it. The future is not required to repeat the worst hour of your past. But it may if you keep worshiping that hour. Stop. Another controller is comparison. Comparison quietly makes another man's life the ruler of your own. You look at his progress and change your pace. You look at his wealth and change your values. You look at his recognition and question your purpose. Now you are no longer living from within. You are reacting to another man's condition. This is not freedom. Study others if there is something useful to learn. But do not borrow their timing. Do not borrow their hunger. Do not borrow their definition of success. A borrowed destination can become a beautiful prison. Ask what you actually want, not what would impress people, not what would silence critics. What is worth building? This question can be frightening because a true answer may require you to stop chasing things that have governed you for years. You may discover that some ambitions were not yours. They belong to family expectation, social expectation, old competition, pride. Do not panic. A false aim abandoned is not lost time if you replace it with a true one. It is recovered direction. But be honest. There is no freedom in pursuing a life you secretly do not want simply because you fear disappointing others. This does not mean rejecting responsibility. It means separating responsibility from borrowed identity. You may have duties. Honor them. But duties do not require self-betrayal in every area. Find the line? This requires thought. The man controlled by approval rarely thinks deeply about what he wants because he is too busy reading other faces. Stop reading every face. Listen inwardly to conscience, purpose, and truth. This may create conflict. Some people may not like the new freedom. Understand why. Your former obedience may have benefited them. When you begin saying no, they may call you selfish. When you stop explaining every decision, they may call you distant. When you refuse to be manipulated by guilt, they may say you have changed. Perhaps you have. Change is not automatically betrayal. Do not become cruel. Do not become arrogant. But do not return to chains merely to make other people comfortable. A man who needs everyone to understand his freedom is still partly controlled by them. Let misunderstanding exist where necessary. Not every person needs full agreement with your direction. This is one of the prices of self-government. Pay it calmly. The controlled man constantly asks, how will they react? The free man asks, what is right? This does not mean ignoring consequences. It means consequences are not the only authority. Principle must remain higher. You may disappoint someone and still be right. You may be praised and still be wrong. Learn this. Praise is not proof. Criticism is not proof. Truth is proof. This is why a free man must develop judgment. Without judgment, freedom becomes recklessness. He stops obeying others and begins obeying impulse. That is not progress. You are not trying to move from one master to another. You are trying to become governed by principle. This is harder than rebellion. Rebellion feels free because it says no. But rebellion may still be controlled by the thing it opposes. If your whole life is built as resistance to another person, that person is still defining the direction. True freedom does not merely oppose, it chooses. Choose a life based upon what is worthy, not merely what is opposite. This is mature independence. The man who says, I will prove them wrong, is still tied to them. The man who says, I will build what is right, has begun leaving them behind. Change the motive. This will calm the mind. A calmer mind sees control more clearly. It becomes less reactive. Reaction is one of the great entrances through which control enters. The man who reacts quickly is easy to direct. Anger him, flatter him, frighten him. He moves. Do not be easy to move. Build pause. When emotion rises, slow the response. This does not mean becoming weak. It means refusing to hand decision to the first emotion that arrives. The pause protects freedom. In that pause, ask what is true. Ask what matters. Ask what result you actually want. Then respond. This one habit can change relationships, finances, leadership, and destiny. Impulsive men often call themselves honest. I simply say what I feel. That is not always honesty. Sometimes it is lack of government. A governed man can be truthful without being reckless. He chooses words. He understands consequence. He does not need to explode to prove sincerity. Develop this restraint. The same applies to desire. The man who buys every desire, follows every appetite, and pursues every excitement may feel free. He is not. He is a servant to novelty. Freedom includes the ability to want something and not take it. This is power. The ability to delay pleasure creates economic power. It creates moral power. It creates strategic power. The man who must have relief now can be controlled. The man who can wait has options. Train waiting. Do not satisfy every discomfort immediately. Sit with the feeling. Let it rise. Let it pass. You will discover something important. Many urges are temporary. They felt like commands only because you always obeyed quickly. When you stop obeying, you learn their true size. This is how appetite loses authority. You may discover the same with anxiety. Anxiety says, solve everything now. Sometimes nothing must be solved at that moment. Sometimes you must sleep. Sometimes you must gather facts. Sometimes time itself will reveal what panic cannot. Do not obey urgency automatically. Ask whether urgency is real. The controlled mind treats every alarm as a fire. The free mind investigates. This creates peace. But freedom also creates responsibility. You can no longer say, I could not help it, as easily.